Hey, welcome back. Today, I just wanted to give you some thoughts. Hopefully, they'll be very helpful to you. I just want to open up and say thank you to my lovely wife, who always encourages me. And she says, before you begin every video, just ask God what He wants you to say. And I'm like, wow, that could be a dangerous thing. So, anyway, I just want to give you a few frank thoughts, and they're based on my own testimony. I think it's important to share and be heard, but with the understanding that you might help somebody. Your own life journey might be exactly what somebody else needs to hear. So if you find that this video helps you today, please feel free to, like the channel if you support what I'm doing, and share it out if you find it encouraging. So anyway, I want to talk to you about hearing the voice of God, but in a little bit of a different way. It's not an exhaustive commentary, but I just wanted to bring out this aspect of, how do I hear God's voice? Well, I can't be exhaustive in a short video today, but what I can say is this. Most of the time, at least in my life, whenever God had a very significant interaction with me, in prayer, in silence, that's where it usually has the most impact. I would encourage people to stop chasing after the lightning bolts and the show, and go walk quietly on the back road and just be honest with God in conversational prayer. And you may be very blessed to find how significant and how specific God's voice can be. But let me share this thought with you first from Scripture as an example. Now, I'm not doing an exhaustive teaching here. I'm just wanting to give this an example. It's used quite a bit, and it comes from 1 Kings 19, 9 to 18, from the prophet Elijah's life. He just came off of the Mount Carmel experience a chapter before. And if you read the scripture, and I'll put a reference there, and you can go read it fully for yourself, but just, to summarize that, Elijah finds himself in the cave, and the voice of the Lord, asks him, he says, Elijah, what are you doing here? And again, we gloss over some of the details of this scripture only to say, God's voice is here, but God actually walks him through a few experiences. First of all, it's the wind and, very dramatic situations, only to come down to a point where it ends up being a small, still voice, they call it, is when you learn to be quiet in your spirit and be quiet with your mouth and learn to calm the mind down. That's when you can hear more clearly the interception of God's voice with your life. So this is a very great example. Now, I love the life of Elijah, and in my other playlist, I'd like to go through that life of Elijah because he's such a real, raw, and relatable man of God. Like he's got, he doesn't represent something that is unreachable by most of us. He's just a very passionate man of God. But there's more to it than that, obviously. So read the scripture, 1 Kings 19, 9 to 18, and you'll discover how the Lord interacts with you and I. And why am I saying this? I had, in early 2022, a hospital experience, which I'd like to kind of share with you in detail. But please understand that's a difficult thing for me because I'm kind of a private person in some ways, but when I ask God what I should speak on, this is what I should speak on. So I just wanted to reach out to you today and bless you with a thought that most of the things that God has ever done in my life, significantly from a word of testimony, has been behind the curtain where nobody else can see or hear. It is never going to be a huge, show or a Mount Carmel experience. I'm not saying that it can't, and I'm not saying there hasn't been, but those experiences seem to be far and few between. But the most significant messages God ever spoke to me was behind a curtain, was simply in the quiet of my life when nobody else was watching. But it made such a huge life impact. It changed the course of how I behaved, of how I learned to love God in quiet. No, I'm a communicator. So learning to develop my relationship with God in the quiet, it's an interesting story there. But, when I first received the Lord into my life, I was at a youth convention. Somebody paid for me to go. I was just a young guy, about 16, living on my own. And I went to this youth convention in 1985. And it had nothing to do with what the speaker was speaking on. It had nothing to do with the jazzy music. It had nothing to do with the hype of the audience. All I felt at the time, now, being born again or coming into the Pentecostal church, altar calls were a thing, were more of a thing than they are today. But I felt a call in my heart quietly, and all the noise and all my friends and, everything was going on around me. And all I heard was that still small voice. And it said, "It's your turn." And I got other stories that would highlight that statement, but "it's your turn now" was what I heard. And so I got up out of my chair and I went to the front. And you might ask, why would you need to do that? Why can't you just do it privately on your own or in your chair? I understand that. But in that moment, I needed to answer the call. I needed to make a decision within my heart and in my life to stand up and walk forward to a place where God had chosen to meet me. And I knelt down and I said, in my heart, I was grieved because I was a young man in a lot of pain. And who'd have thought at 16, 17 years old you're starting over again, But I thought in my heart, yeah. So I prayed out loud and I said, "Jesus, you have to drive this car because I can't drive it anymore." I didn't have a way of expressing in, the four spiritual laws. I didn't have all that. I had only the honesty of my heart, which, like Elijah, real, raw, and relatable. And, Jesus is faithful. He will meet you where you are at. He will meet you at the right time. He will invite you in the right way. And you will respond in a way that'll change your life forever. Have a great day.